Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing. I'm one of your co-hosts, Lauren Gray. Show number 81 with me is Mr. Ed StOnge.
Holy Zoba!
All of a sudden, the caliber of this show has incrementally gone up. Boom!
Now we're actually going to have a show that's about facts.
We're going to have a show.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
This means we actually get to talk to you now. We've seen you all week and barely got to talk to you. You were very
Blur.
Yeah.
You were like a social butterfly. Were you like, doing the biz thing, or was this just a Holly's so popular everybody wants to talk to her? Well, probably that. I think I'm going to stick to first. I'm taking this one off the table. It's the Holly's so popular one.
No, when you know how it is when you guys are the same way. You go to these things every year, and there's people that you really like, and you want to find out what's going on.
We don't.
And you don't talk to the ones you don't like.
Right.
Holly.
Oops.
I tried to talk to you a few times, and you were like,
yeah, maybe because you make fun of my face.
Oh, on the contrary.
Fair enough.
Do that class to us. Are you kidding?
Fair enough.
But it was, I wish at dinner. The dinner we had that night was a lot of fun. And if I could throw that into the context of today's show, I had the privilege of sitting beside the Mr. Not mysterious, but totally buried George Corbin, who is in charge of everything digital for Marriott. He's the de facto, now that Shafiq is retired, he is like the point person for everything digital. And it really was fun to just, because I've known him for years. We used to have a lot more engagement way back when EFAC was a smaller group. The franchise and something e-commerce franchise association. I forget what the acronym stood for, but anyway, they still use it. But now there's hundreds of people that are part of it instead of the 8 that we were. So it's been years since I had a chance to talk to him. You know what? I have to give a lot of appreciation to what he's going through in that merger stuff, because I get to hear some pretty cool stories of him being in Mr. Marriott's office. He's there about every other weekish kind of thing.
Wow.
Can you imagine the first time going into Mr. Marriott's office and being responsible for stuff that he's asking questions for? You'd be sitting there going, okay, well, all right, hot seat,
So any insights you can share with us?
Well, they've got some pretty cool stuff coming up on mobile. They had a big flap a couple of weeks ago, which I knew a little bit about, but I didn't really realize the extent of it. But they had a major meltdown on their upgrade on their app.
oh,
Big deal. Big meltdown with problems.
I didn't see that on Skift.
Yeah, and funny that, right? I mean, Skiff would be the first out there, right? But yeah, it turned out that there was a big thing with the update that they got it working. But he said with a smile, he says, but we don't know how we got it working. So that's the worst problem.
Yeah,
is
that's actually,
it got back to being working. Yeah,
it worked really well, and we don't know why. So we're scared,
and we don't know why.
That's worse than it failing and knowing why it failed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he was talking about that, and again, credit to them. Their focus on the integration of the membership programs is profoundly paramount. I mean, it is core to his mission statement. He couldn't begin to emphasize enough the value proposition of blending correctly. And he says that the really terrible part of it all is deciding which lives and which doesn't live when both are already good to start with. Mm-hmm. Making those decisions between slightly different versus slightly better, and whether you made that right choice or not. And he gave a couple examples, which I don't want to go over and talk about, but it just was kind of these ones like, yeah, how the hell would I guess between those two? Just stuff like, yeah, that's going to piss two groups of people off either way. But you got to do one. You can't do both because they're not compatible. So you got to pick one. So, yeah, I do not envy his role at all for what he has to do, but they're aggressively looking for talented people. They're aggressively looking for, and this is within the Starwood ranks as well. I mean, they're trying to absorb as much as possible from the people from the Starwood. They're trying to bandwidth themselves. So I mean, it was fun. It was fun catching up with him. But yeah, just a position I think right now in the world of that I probably wouldn't be envious of, because it's quite a lot that's on his plate to get resolved. So, but anyway, other than that, the dinner was fun. Yeah, we really did. And then Isaac wasn't there either. So Jay, who I got to sit beside. Oh, by the way, Ed, we got to get Jay. That was just so much fun. I actually watched the whole thing when I was doing the uploads to YouTube last night of Jay's interview from the show. And for those who don't know, we interviewed 16 people.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
This week, HSMAI had an event in New York City. Actually, had two events in New York City back to back. They had their annual Adrian Awards Gala, and then they had their digital marketing summit. Do they call it a summit? Conference?
Conference.
Okay.
But 19th. It was the 19th one, actually.
And so we were there as press and covered as much of the show. So if you don't follow Lauren on Facebook, you don't know this yet.
That's true.
But it was a great couple of events. Holly, good job. You know, you had a lot to do with a lot of that. So I thought content this year was fantastic at the digital marketing conference. It was really good. And we got to interview a lot of really cool people. I was really shocked at how willing some of these people were to just say yes to not knowing what we were going to talk to them about. And I think the interviews were really good. You know, not just because I was giving them, but actually how open people were. And so we got to interview quite a few people, including Jay Hubbs from Remington. And Jay is just, he's a character. Like, first of all, he's super smart, has an amazing perspective because he's been OTA, he's been tech vendor, and now, you know, he's at the hotel level as a major group. And so when you talk about having the perspective of all parties, you know, it's just a real interesting guy to talk to. And then just also one of those genuinely nice people in the industry. He's very close friends with my senior director of sales. And they actually worked together. She left Easy Yield after it was acquired and worked for a little bit and worked with Jay. And they became very close. And he's one of those just perfect examples of a lovely human being. And then on top of that,
guy.
Yeah. And then on top of that, he's hilarious. That was like one of the funniest.
He has got a wit about him that is like razor sharp. And it was just, and the two of you, Ed, together, honestly, it was pure freaking entertainment. I mean, back and forth about how many times you want me to say yes? How many times do you want me to say yes? I don't know, as long as I keep it being right. Okay, you're right. It was like a comedy skit on some parts. It was awesome. Yeah. It was awesome. Yeah. Like I said, I played it back last night when I was doing the uploads. Just like I found it, I'm like, I'm just going to play. And I just played the whole 20 minutes of it, you know, or 22 minutes of it or something like that. But yeah, to that point, we did 6 hours of interviews.
Wow.
17 hours. We actually had for a little bit, we had people waiting in line. We had
people waiting in line to do interviews.
That was fantastic.
Yeah. So it worked out. And to Ed's point, we had some great interviews. And the girl, Kat from Sojourn, was another standout.
Oh my gosh! I mean, just such a personality on her, and which is great. I mean, she's the example of just lean into things you're nervous about, because she had said she was one of the first people to agree to an interview prior to the event, and so she was speaking at the event. She had her own breakout session, and then she came much later in the day to come do an interview because she said, you know, quite honestly, she was very nervous. And I said, don't worry about it. You know, what do you care about? And she cares about content marketing. I said, great. I know a lot about that. We'll make it up. It'll be fun. Don't worry about it. And she's the exact reason why you should be willing to do that, because she was amazing on the interview. Just great. And we need to have her on the show. So Kat, if you happen to see this, you should come on the show, because we'd love to have.
It's no different.
We'd love to hear. Yeah. No different. It's actually probably far less professional.
Yep.
Who all did you end up interviewing? I haven't seen it yet. I'm watching it later today.
So we had Josh, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of Wyndham Hotel Group. So he was on the panel from the top. He came on another one who as he stepped off stage, I walked up to him. Hey, Ed, hospitality, digital marketing this week, whatever, you know, come on and do an interview. And he was like, okay, yeah. He's like, I have like 2 minutes. I said, okay, great. We'd really appreciate it. And then he disappeared. I'm like, oh man, I don't think I'm going to see him again. And so, then Robert walked up to Dorothy, the Chief Marketing Officer of Best Western. Hey, come do an interview. So Dorothy was our first interview of the day. And wow, she's another just amazing, lovely person. I know someone who works directly for her, and a close friend of mine from just years of being in this industry. And she always speaks so highly of Dorothy, and I'd never met her before. And I'll tell you what, after interviewing with her and just listening to what she cares about, she's the epitome of what we want in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
She really is. And again, just so gracious to give us her time and be so open. And she's such an advocate for HSMAI.
Yes.
You know, so for our first interview, I think we started with the best possible people.
Yeah, and honestly, it was, and again, either one of those people, and I'll take them as first examples, could have come in and just been courteous, been professionally courteous.
Yep, and just answered the 5 questions.
Yep. Thank you very much. Great to talk with you. Hope you do well. They just opened up. They lit up. Her genuineness came through. Her sincere, earnest belief of what we're in the business for as hospitality professionals is profound. I mean, for someone at that caliber, at that level, to still be so attached to the purpose of the business is very heartwarming, because so easily you could be calloused and biased and tainted and disconnected and all the thousand of other things that happen when you're at that level of engagement. But her, it's as if she was working at a property level and just talked to her last guest that checked into her own hotel. Honestly, yep. She really genuinely cares about the improvement of the experience that is being provided by her company, and it just shone through. And then what turned into a 5 minutes conversation was a 20-minute conversation. Yep. And then Josh comes in.
Same.
He could have been just as cold about it. Instead, started talking about stuff as if we're sitting around chatting over a cup of coffee with old friends.
Yep.
And
so the two of them are exactly why I'm in this industry. I mean, the fact is the two of them had every reason to not spend a lot of time with us, but instead we're completely open books and, you know, really care about this industry and care about their teams and their people. And, you know, this is why I work in this industry. So just really lovely. And then after that, Lauren also did an interview with Derbysoft, Dean Schmidt, which was really good, Lauren. You know, you weren't in front of the camera much. You had to.
No, I was the producer on this one mostly. Yeah.
And then Bob Gilbert from HSMAI.
Yeah, Bob came in. Yep, he did a good job.
And then Sam from Hebs Digital came in and talked a bit about what Hebs is doing. And then we had Jay Hubs from Remington, which was great. And then you had Walter and Anil from Milestone. And then Marion. Where's Marion these days? She's doing something new. Okay.
Yeah, she's doing U-Trip, which is kind of a neat. I want to get her on the show because I always get excited when I talk to her about the value proposition of U-Trip, which is basically time sharing or time selling your rooms to dead zones, like 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can book a red eye person through before you resell it that evening or something.
That's brilliant. I do that every time I have to fly to Asia. I stop in LA and I'll actually just rent a hotel room just for the 8-hour stopover I have in LA to kind of refresh, take a shower, hang out, have something to eat. Yeah.
Yeah, they want to bring it to the U.S. Well, they have some in the U.S., but they're mainly in London and Paris right now, and Tokyo, I think is where she said are 3 strongest. And it's hugely popular. It goes right down to bottom line revenue. Instead of talking about top line revenue all the time, it's not, it doesn't work into your RevPAR or anything like this. This is just pure additional. She describes it better, obviously, which is why I want to get around.
Well, it's actually funny is during my easy old days, a friend of ours who's a lawyer actually had my business partner and I go look at a hotel that he got in receivership due to some legal fees getting racked up, and it was an hourly hotel, and not one you would think would be any type of serious revenue hotel. But I'll tell you what, that hourly hotel on a really cheap piece of real estate was doing about $700,000 a year for a 9-room hotel. I mean, so when you break that up into occupancy and ADR, it was outperforming the market. Different type of hourly, but still. Their cleaning budget was atrocious.
Pretty high.
No, it's scary low. And magically, every time I walked in a suit, many people ran out of the building. But still, learned a lot. Learned a
So,
lot about
ironically,
business.
Ironically, and then after we had, I think, well, we had a null again, I think, for another recap on some stuff, but there's somebody we're missing. But we ended up, we had gone into, we were going to do 4 live broadcasts, and we ended up doing only 2 really conference covering. All the rest was just the interviews. We did an opening one. Robert and I just warm up saying this is what's coming up. Couldn't remember the damn keynote name because we didn't even have the agenda in front of us when we did that one. And then at the very end, we spent around 37, 40 minutes.
If you haven't noticed from watching the show, we don't do a lot of prep.
Not a lot of prep.
Not a lot of prep and planning put into any of these things.
Shooting from the hip. But yeah, so there's that. Let's see. Oh, just to touch on the Adrians, they were foolish enough to let me have access to their social media accounts to do their social stuff while they were doing the Adrians. So I bombarded them with a entourage of, well, actually in a good way, because MLive, Marriott offered to cover the Instagram and Twitter posts live on MLive. So they were doing a live feed of everything that was being posted. And so I was doing the HSMAI stuff, and there was a lot of, it was a fun.
Sorry. Do you hear this pounding?
Yeah, there's someone knocking.
It's me. I'm in a hotel room. I think that they're doing some work upstairs.
Are you still in New York? Or no, you went somewhere.
I'm in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
Not perfect for that.
No.
Hello. Take the broomstick, go bump, 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 or whatever. No. So anyway, Adrian's went exceptionally well. I think they had, if not a record audience, close to a record audience. I think they were right around 1,000-ish people. They changed the format up a little bit on how they were presenting the things. And there's always the challenge that you have 1,000 alphas in a room. Nobody's going to pay attention to everything for very long because they're going to start talking to each other. So eventually the crowd din noise rises and so forth. But I have to give a compliment to the awards in the sense that what they had offered for ads this year, the caliber was exceptional. That was some great stuff. What are they doing anyway? It sounds like they're tearing out the bathroom or something.
I'm going to have to log off. I feel terrible.
No, I like it.
No, just put it on mute. Just put it on mute unless you're going to say something. Just put it on mute right now.
If I mute you, I can't hear anything.
Oh, that's weird. So, so before you, can you hear us?
Not if I put you on mute.
Well, they stop. We'll just
yeah, we'll deal with it.
We'll deal with it.
Who cares
about
have
you on the show? Who
cares about video and sound integrity? We're just here to talk. So I will say, the digital marketing conference was really good this year. The content was really good. I sat through both keynotes, the beginning and end. I thought it was nice. They kind of pulled it down from being so high level. Last year was so high level. It was really, they were speaking to the top people in the room, where this year it was far more basic, which I think just benefits everyone to go to the basics. So, I was really happy to see that. I thought the breakouts, I didn't get to see all of them. Unfortunately, because we were interviewing so many people, but the topics seemed really great. The feedback I got from the people who did sit in them thought they were really great. And it's the who's who in digital marketing that go to this event. So if you're in anything that has to do with marketing of hotels or destinations or anything, this is an event you should do every year.
Right. Well, it also goes back to our earlier conversations when Tim was even around with us. We're talking about the fact that we met each other in various ways through this kind of conference. It's like old friends week. When you're there, you can't stop hugging people and saying hi to people and saying you're going to talk to people, because it's like it's the chance that it's your tribe. I think that's what Tim referred to in the conversation we had about this. These are your people. You know, when you get into the room together, it's like, oh, thank God it's you. Good to see you. Catch up with this, catch up with that. And you have dialogue. You get into deep conversations that 99% of the time you talk to anybody else and their eyes glaze over. They're beginning to drool. They're looking off on the horizon. And these people not only listen to you, but they add to it and make it even go farther. You know, it's like you just can't be happy enough about this. And it's fun too. Short conversations, you can get great big solutions. Just somebody would say, "Oh yeah, we're doing that now." And you're like, "Whoa, wait a minute, you're doing that?" And then boom, you find out what they're doing, kind of stuff. So really, really good for that. We did it. I did some recording interviews of some of the other vendors that were in the room. We didn't get them on the live show, but I did do some recordings. So I'll be posting those up of some of the other products that were in the room. Some good representation this year. Yeah, there was some good vendor representation this year, and some interesting solutions that they were providing that I don't think we're in the discussions even last year, but now they're being a part of their solution processes and stuff like that. Since I didn't get to see much of the presentations, was there anything that stood out from anything that people were talking about that really resonated with you guys?
Holly?
So yeah, I was going to say, you probably didn't get to see any of the presentations. Everyone that I went to resonated with me. I loved them. I was sad that I was missing the other ones because I went, for example, to Sean Auckland's macro trends for Google. Did you go to that, Ed? Were you
I was interviewing people at that time.
Yeah,
I wanted to see that one. Yeah,
that was fantastic. I went to Cindy Estes Green, talking
demystifying distribution.
Yeah, that was distressing. I tweeted out one miserable slide from that one that just talks about, the cost of acquisition.
Being bled to death, yeah.
It's a problem. It's a problem we have to figure out. But she, as always, just does such a great job of presenting the facts. And in both the Google and the Cindy Estes Green breakout, people were so engaged. They're like sitting on the edge of their seat. And really, both of them just had, I just thought, such well thought through presentations for the group that was there. If it was not for the novice, certainly. I mean, it really was never targeted for the novice folks that are there. You went there, and if you work in this area in hospitality, you got good, actionable information. And thought for future strategic information. And also, I mean, if you attended, you get all the slides of all the PowerPoints of the presentations, and you can really go back and educate your hotels and your staff about what's going on and what direction to take, and help you really sort of form a strategic plan. It was fantastic. Like the general session, I loved. I had to leave to come to San Francisco about probably 3, and so I missed Jeff Ramsey. Did anybody else see him?
I think Ed did. You caught Jeff, right?
Yep. Yeah, it was good stuff. What I liked about it is, so for me, who follows this world very closely, it was very basic. But that's what I want these events to be. Like, this shouldn't be stuff that's stretching my mind, because I'm sitting here obsessed over behavior and how decisions are made and things like that. But it was very basic. It was very consumable. He took it through very smart steps. So I think the people in the room should have walked away going, I know what to do with this. Because previous years, I will say, it was very, very different. It was stuff that I was sitting going, wow, okay, that's really advanced stuff. I think it's not what should be talked about at these events, because let's face it, most of the hoteliers are nowhere near that level. It's great that there are certain players that are operating at that level, but that's the exception. So that's actually what I liked about this year, is I didn't learn much. And I know that sounds silly. No, but listen, I know that sounds silly, but I shouldn't at these events. That's not what these events should be. If they're truly going to be educational, it should be the basics. HSMAI's goal should be to get everyone on a level playing ground. And then once we feel like the industry is there, that's when they should become more advanced. So that, I know that sounds crazy, but that's what I was most happy about this year, is most of this stuff I did not see as anything that was, life-changing for me. But I could see how for the audience it was, because these are the things they need to hear. These are the things they need to learn about.
Yeah. And I'll have to echo that. You know that from our private conversations that I was very skeptical of the level of content that was being developed for the conference as being too high altitude and being catering on to the C-level people, and that there was not usable content beyond that. And I was very pleasantly surprised that, from what I did understand of the content that was being presented, it was digestible by everybody that was in attendance. And to your point, Ed, it wasn't because it was, astronomically high-level thinking, nor was it highly engaged technical mumbo-jumbo, deep drilling kind of stuff. It was common sense, thoughtful process. And
fundamentals.
Yeah. And to that end, I also getting more of, this was my first conference in 15 years, I think, that I had to rely upon secondhand information as to what was going on, because I really didn't make it in. Man,
you got it from me and Robert. So
I know, right? So I got a total tainted perspective on this. But here's the fun part. It probably went on time. And they were really happy there wasn't 1,001 effing questions from the dude that sat in the front row. So I think I probably contributed positively to the success.
For the first time
this is
in
my
your
story, and I'm sticking to it. I increased the success of this conference by not sitting in the front where I left my jacket all day.
I missed you there, though.
Oh, I missed being in there just to go over rattle them. But hey, just on some points with this was handed out at the conference. It was at the Adrian's as well in the chairs of everybody. And for those who can't see it from the camera of it, this is what?
I didn't get one.
They were everywhere. How did you not get one?
I was too busy.
Best Western handed these out, which again is a tribute to Carolyn, because the idea was this is what you put your phone in to go over and look at your 360 stuff. And my point with this, which I think is pretty neat, is how crazy is it that we're in a world now that we can go to a conference and this is what's getting handed out? 2 years ago, this would have been like, yeah, right. I mean, even
now, ironically, my daughter also got one of those yesterday in her McDonald's Happy Meal. So,
well, McDonald's, God bless them, they're doing good.
I will say it's good, but that is the mainstream right now.
Yeah.
And so, how good is it that a hotel group is like current to the mainstream?
Yeah, and they're a part of this. Given our industry's track record, that's pretty much a quantum leap in efficiencies. Because normally we're the ones like, what? They make cars? What? Oh, we should make a motor lodge. So to that end, I would say great, because anytime I told people the story of using Google Cardboard and 360s and stuff, they kind of like, yeah, that's nice, Lauren, pat me on the head. You're always the geek that had the toys. Now, justification. I've vindicated that they're handing these things out in conferences. But it is neat. Best Western has done a phenomenal job of moving into that space. And people are beginning. The sense I got from a secondhand point of view was people are taking technology seriously in our industry, that they're considering the value proposition of taking advantage of the technology that's existing, instead of looking, as we were talking about in some of our conversations with the interviews, looking for the next shiny object, the next techie thing.
Well, and here's a point to Best Western, and you should go watch the interview we did with Dorothy, because, one of the things that we did discuss is, more so than a Hilton or a Marriott or even a Wyndham, Best Western's got a really hard approach to innovation, because they run as a democracy. They're partner hotels. Take part in deciding what Best Western does. That's a lot of voices. And that's a lot of voices of people who are not necessarily always the most advanced in these types of things. So, we actually did talk about that in the interview. And it's what I find interesting about them as a company is they're a democracy. They see themselves not as your traditional franchise model brand. They, really do take their partner hotels' needs and desires seriously, and also take the time to educate their partner hotels on what they should be doing. So yeah, definitely go watch that interview. It was really neat to hear her talk about that.
It's a fascinating model. I sell to hotels, and so selling to Hilton versus an IHG versus a Best Western, you need to know their culture and how they're set up. Sure. It's a different world. It's a different environment.
Yeah. So I first, I came away from this saying we need to do this at more events. I mean, we need to be at more events, meeting the people who are presenting, interviewing them afterwards, because I think there was an interesting level of detail that these people went into coming off stage that they couldn't go into on stage, that I think people would find very valuable. So Lauren, I think we should reach out to more of these types of events. I should do rock for HSMAI. Because there's great speakers at Rock every year, but I think they end up covering a very narrow focus in their in what they present, and I think there is some opportunity for them to go a level deeper in an interview with us.
From what I could tell, from what Carolyn and Josh both had, there was a bit of a continuation of some of what they had said on stage, because they referred to it in the interview. What I was meaning when I said, or when I said this is what I was saying. So to your point, I think it really does add a certain addition to the rest of the story, as it were, from what they presented on the stage. Because on the stage, you're trying to appease to the time constraint, and to the general audience, where on an interview you can be more specific as to your content, as to why you built it the way it did and so forth. So, and I think Bob actually alluded to the fact he had mentioned at the dinner that he's under the anticipation that we are going to try to do this for Rock. He says, "You're going to try to do this for Rock," and they're like, "Yeah, I want to do this for Rock." So we'll see. I'd like to get into high tech as well. I mean, all the different.
Once we finish the production, because by the way, Holly, Lauren's shipping us all the content, and my video team's gonna edit it down and put it into like really good.
Yeah, the audio. Some of the audio was better than others as we got better at it. I mean, I had the camera like a mile away.
Well, yeah, but
when
you
we
had
first
that other
started.
camera recording with a directional mic, so I'm actually hopeful that picked up better audio.
Yeah, it did on some of them.
So we're gonna break it up. We'll hand it to HSMAI for them to use in their promoting of other events or even recaps as they wish. But we'll all be able to use that content to spread awareness of this event and educate.
I want to send it over to the participants as well, because it shines a light on them as well. They did a good job. Everybody that did the interviews did a great job of representing what it is that they do. So it's a great team builder for people to realize that their leadership does see the vision of what they're doing every day. It's not the company's boss going, no, they're really talking about the culture and the environment of what they're trying to produce as a quality service. So it was good. It was good in that sense too. We're hoping that they share it with him. But yeah, there's the idea that and this was our first time doing it, so it was a learning curve.
We'll get better.
Yeah, we'll get better.
Yeah, the next event, Holly, my video team's going to come up.
So, really?
Yeah, so I don't have to mess with being producer all the time.
Yep.
Although I do love playing with the gadgets, the camera of happiness.
Yep. But we also have lavalier mics that would have dealt better with the background sound.
Well, the sad part is I actually had them with me. I just never plugged them into our iPad or iPhone because I was running producer. I should have left the iPad with you and then put the lavaliers on it. Like I said, first time trying it, never did it. So that was what all the extra gear was for that I never used. It was the extra bag.
But we learned. So the next event we'll cover much better.
Hey, one of the topics that I threw in that was actually from last week we didn't get to, but one that I wanted to, because I knew it was just going to be with you today, and Holly, that's awesome, is that revenue managers, there was an article that came out that revenue managers want revolution, but they don't do anything about it. And since we're talking about Rock and coming up in June, and it's going to be, we want a revolution part 2 conversation probably, but the reality is that revenue management really is waiting for it to be, in the perspective of this article, waiting for it to be done for them, not them having to do something about it. Like they're like, yes, we need to be in control of everything, and we need to be running all the marketing, and we're supposed to be getting all this new data usage and artificial intelligence, and give it to us when it's ready. And
so we talked about that with Josh at Wyndham about these silos and how the walls of these silos are gone, and it really should be a coordinated effort. And it actually starts to beg the question of should these be separate markets or separate departments inside of a hotel? Because marketing today is far more data centric than it's ever been, and because it's data centric, it means it can be used very differently. And in order for that to line up right, decisions need to be made on when are you trying to drive demand and when does it make sense to promote certain things, and then also analyzed of the traffic we got from these campaigns. Did it drive us the right type of guest? We've thought for a long time at Flip.to that revenue management marketing need to be either answering to the same person in an organization, so that way there is some point of connection, or at least incredibly collaborative in what they do.
And of course, let's not forget sales. That's in
a hotel, like sales and marketing is usually one and the same.
No, I disagree. Certainly.
No, I meant staffing wise, it's one and the same.
I think that's the case, but at this point, most, at least management companies, bring in a certain level of marketing. And I'm in San Francisco. I told you guys doing the class. It's my issue for many years that salespeople refuse to embrace technology, and though they're going to become extinct if they don't.
Oh, easily. Yeah, you're gone. If you're resisting technology as a salesperson today, you might as well just go look for another type of job in some other industry, because you're going to get eaten alive.
And they do. Did it go away for you, Lauren?
No, you went away.
Can you see me?
I can see you. I can't see Holly.
I can
but
see
on the live
Lauren,
broadcast,
I see the outline of Ed.
no, it's a shadow thing. But on the live broadcast, it's still showing all three of us. So
Strange.
I think it's personal bandwidth that's restricting. But this is our last show on Hausa. It's going away next week, next week. So this is our last broadcast on Hausa.
This class, though, that I did, I introduced technology that actually makes salespeople's lives easier. And so that is sort of easier to get them to embrace, because we actually spent time forcing them to sign up for these programs and actually walk through them. And there were so many aha moments.
What kind of technology are you looking at in these
I'm
classes?
talking about, so as an example, now you're back. Charlie app. As a salesperson, I love my Charlie app. Are you familiar with it?
I've heard of it. We don't use it, but yeah.
You got to use it. First of all, it's free. I mean, I think there's a paid version, but it's free. And what I do, it integrates with my calendar. And so all salespeople are supposed to research people before they meet with them. And sometimes you do, and sometimes you forget. What Charlie does is an hour before your meeting, my Charlie assistant, happens to look like Tom Welling, exactly like Tom Welling in my mind. He goes out and researches and pulls in all sorts of data about whoever it is I'm meeting with, and presents it in a one-pager, quotes about the company, quotes that tweets that they've made, any past emails between us, consolidates it all in one page. And literally you can scan through 10 minutes before your meeting, have a ton to talk about, get a lot of insights, and it just makes it easier for salespeople to do their jobs. So that when I'm talking about technology, that's what I'm talking about.
We use LinkedIn Sales Navigator heavily, and we use it for that reason. Because you can also, when you do look up someone in Sales Navigator, it subscribes you to them and their company. So you actually get a daily news feed of discussions that are happening on LinkedIn that have something to do with that company or that person.
So as I'm so often charged with hotels, I have to look for really cheap or free solutions. And so most of the tools that I introduced were actually free or cheap. Not all of them. So, one of them was Proposify. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a proposal software that just, brings in so much more data. And then, of course, we had to talk about Spark Adobe, my favorite, Adobe Spark, my favorite sales tool. And the concept is stand-apart sales. But my point of this was the marketing folks came and sat in on this sales training. And there was a, senior VP marketing guy who was great. I mean, it was good for him to be there. But there was a more junior marketing person. And we were talking about this last night, what a valuable experience for her to sit in this sales training and hear the obstacles and the challenges that sales managers face. Because as the marketing person, she had all sorts of ideas on how she could help them. But because they don't always sit in the same room and spend the time to hear this, doesn't happen. So that's why I say.
And so what's interesting about that is so our sales and marketing are one and the same inside of Flip.to. And so we do concerted efforts when we're targeting specific segments of customers of hotels. So our marketing team will make sure that our sales team has quality content to use, because we also take an approach in sales, we give to get. So we actually take the time, first of all, to research who we think are exactly the right fit for our platform. We then look at the people that we're targeting inside of that hotel and come up with content that we think would be beneficial to them. It's not always our content. Sometimes, like, we share a lot of Tambourine blog posts, we share a lot of news, a lot of studies, and so our sales team lead with, hey, came across your hotel. Here's why I'm reaching out to you. I noticed this, and this about you. Here's some cool, pieces of content that we think you would like, that you would find beneficial. So we actually do that, but at the same time, we also build marketing pieces that align with that audience. And then you tie it together. We do retargeting of those people. We use video. We have it very well integrated, and technology is at the core of it all, because that's how we know, does this matter to these people? So when we look at, we're now at a point that our cold outreach, so you want to talk about why use technology? Because we know our cold outreach within 7 days of a cold outreach gets a 25% positive response rate. And to us, positive response is they're interested in continuing a conversation with us, or they say yes to a demo.
That's impressive.
And that's what you get. That's what you get when you correctly adopt technology and align marketing with sales.
Absolutely.
Is you can fine tune your approach to the point where you're getting response rates that rival open rates of normal campaigns. And so that's, it's hugely important. And it's the same for hotels. I mean, when you're talking to groups, when you're responding to RFPs, when you're doing any of these things, you have to understand who you're talking to and why you're talking to them, and what value do you bring to the equation. And if your value is just, I can answer your questions, you're going at this the wrong way. Because first of all, consumers of all types, whether it be us selling to hotels, whether it be group planners, whether it be a bride who's looking to book a wedding, they are far more knowledgeable nowadays than they've ever been in the life cycle of sales. And if you don't understand that and you don't add value to that, you're not selling. What you're getting is order taking, and you're getting lucky. But if you want to actually make an impact and feel like you're really contributing to your organization's growth, you're adding value to the sales process.
And that it was a 2-day training class, and we incorporated technology, but it wasn't all about technology. It was about the B2B buying process and the different points along the way. And I completely got rid of the old sales funnel, and the new sales funnel is not a funnel, it's a hourglass. And it talks about how salespeople need to proactively engage customers at their varying points. So, for example, in the earlier stages, before they're really solid on what they're doing, sales managers need to present themselves as thought leaders in different areas, looking at the needs of their customers and really trying to figure out where do they need help. And so we spent a lot of time about how they can share content that's relevant, not about their hotel, but about what's important in their prospect's business life, that's going to help them do it, get a promotion, do a better job, have a better idea at work within the realm of, meeting planners or brides or, soccer coaches. So it was a very cool class, but it was great that marketing's there because the synergy was phenomenal, and it just doesn't always happen.
By the way, if you want to do a give to get for people to come to these classes, have you heard of Thumbtack?
No.
All right. So my wife has an event planning company, and she specializes in very specific types of events. And one of her lowest cost, highest conversion lead sources has been a new site called Thumbtack. And it's like a better version of an Angie's List, where people literally come out and they're like, I'm looking for a venue for this type of event, or I'm looking to have my wife's 70th birthday party, or I'm planning a wedding. And then they're looking for people to come and say, yeah, I can help you with that. Here's an idea of cost. And it's you pay on conversion. So look at Thumbtack. If you're talking to sales teams who are supposed to be out finding business, like Thumbtack is a secret right now, but they advertise heavily. And in their advertisement, it's very event specific.
Holly, you bring something up.
What was that?
As I was listening to both of you talk, I realized something about sales, and that is that, like you mentioned, a person came in from marketing and just kind of like, hey, I can help you with that. I can help you with that. And I was feeling the same way when you were talking about salespeople. It's like salespeople have been kind of like, what's that commercial for breakfast where the guy's halfway into the ground? He's like, and the girl says, you're in a rut. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm I'm in tune or something like that. And he's like, no, she's like, you're in a rut. You're eating the same thing for breakfast every day. I don't know. Have you seen that commercial yet?
I've never seen that commercial.
No. Oh, okay. Well, obviously that reference is going to count for nothing. All right. So the idea is that sales has been doing the same thing over and over, and they get sometimes trickled out like LinkedIn. Oh, LinkedIn was going to be, and I can guarantee you most salespeople do not know how to use LinkedIn properly. I don't even know how to use LinkedIn properly. I kind of know better because I mess with it more, but there's still, I mean, I can hear Ed sometimes. I'm like, you can do that? I mean, just stuff, like, I didn't know you do that, boom. Okay. I didn't know that blended with that. There's so many plugins to LinkedIn that you can use it for and so forth. And there's so many other things that, and I think what's been lost in the conversation with salespeople is that it's not just about the new tools, platforms, gadgets, and stuff, although they're very helpful and they're useful, as it is the methodology has changed. That there is a way, like when I was listening to you all talk about the ability to cultivate the knowledge of the people you're talking to. That's sales fundamentals. Who am I talking to? What is it that they're interested in? And it used to be very simplistic. Oh, they'll go snow skiing, so I want to talk about snow skiing. That used to be the pervasive thing with Facebook. You follow somebody on Facebook, and you realize their interest, and you engage that part of the topic in your conversations with them to solicit engagement with them. You're like, hey, I like snow skiing too, or something. Those days are past. That's now just so.
I mean, the thing you have to pay attention to be a really good salesperson is you have to pay attention to not what's popular as a sales tactic. You need to be different. You need to be ahead of that, because otherwise you blur into the background of everyone else who's trying to sell to them.
So the name of the sales training is Stand Apart Sales for that exact reason. I mean,
I love it.
The great minds think alike, and then just the rest of us follow you, Holly.
I mean, and here's what's ironic about that. For our best prospect targets, like ones that we just know are absolute killer, they'll love the platform, they'll be our best customers, we're actually toying with handwritten notes because no one's doing it anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And we're tracking it. And then Lauren, you've seen the dedicated landing page.
Yep, I love that
we are using to send to people that our salespeople are, saying, here's a dedicated landing page to, in 8 minutes you will find out if this is exactly what you're interested in or not. And that's been so effective. And now we're going to signature videos, which is a 30-second video on, here's me and here's what I care about and why I'm here.
And that's what you can do on Spark Adobe or Adobe Spark. One of the biggest differences is the number of buyers. I sold hotels for 20 years. And back in the day when I sold hotels, there was one decision maker, one purchaser. And
it's not anymore.
And they relied on most of their information from me, which is fantastic. I was the hotel sales expert. Now, as you know, the internet is the hotel sales expert. You don't get to the salesperson until way, way down in the funnel, unless you approach things differently. And also the average, number of decision makers in a buy is now somewhere around 5.4. And so you're not going to talk to 5 people. You're going to have to influence them some other way. So you really do have to change the way they do sales. It was fascinating. Can we talk about one article? I'm not going to be able to stay on forever, but there's one article that you shared that Flip.to is quoted in, and I want to know about it.
So Fuel Travel, which is a really cool,
good podcast, great podcast.
I mean, so if one thing you'll notice about Flip.to and just me in general is when I find people who I think are doing the right thing, we find a way to partner. Right. And so Fuel Travel is one of those examples of an agency that has been doing things the right way. And when I say that, first of all, they were really early to the whole idea of marketing as a technical thing. Like they actually built their own booking engine for their clients to use, so it's correctly integrated to the site. And they're huge. Like most of Myrtle Beach uses Fuel Travel and has for like 20 years. And so these guys are really advanced, really technical. And so they had the ability, because they actually, through what they do, they're kind of a DMC in certain markets, where they actually own like some pretty interesting URLs and are very consumer facing. So they went and did a full study, and we helped them design the study on finding out what consumers are doing and what they care about at different points of the buying journey and everything. And so talking about this specific piece of that study, which is the number of sites in the decision path, it shocked the heck out of us too. But when we looked at it, it makes a lot of sense. And one of the reasons it made a lot of sense is sites are getting better. So more sites are realizing what the pieces of the user journey need to be present to capture and convert. And we didn't think it was that much of an impact before we actually went into the data study on it. But I mean, this was far more of a study than what you normally see. I mean, when you look at the sample case and you look at how the questions were crafted, we spent a lot of effort with them to make sure that these questions didn't lead people to answers. We wanted it to be like, we just really wanted to learn and see what we learned from the study. And that was one of the key findings that just shocked us.
So share the finding. I mean, I don't know that,
so it's the average site visit, and now I got to pull it up because I can't remember, but it was 4.4 sites visited before a decision is made. Part of this and some of the other findings we look at also have to do with how people are influenced, though. And you also have to take into consideration the types of markets that these people were going to. That probably shrink that number a bit. But still, it's so different that, we tend to think that the number's gone down across the board. So, with that being said, you look at the data you can get from an OTA or from TripAdvisor now, it's pretty much everything you need to know to make the decision, right? You hear me talk about my famous story about, traveling with toddlers and just not caring where I went. And most of the quality data I got was off TripAdvisor, and my next step was a hotel site. And so bottom line is if the hotel site had the content needed to, confirm what I learned on the TripAdvisor blogs or on the mommy blogs or what have you, I would book right then and there. So that would have been 2 visits. So I do think because the internet is getting better and people who are designing websites realize that there are things needed to be present to make a decision, I think that's part of what we're seeing here is those are now more present. They're on more sites, so you don't need to go as wide reaching to find what you want to do.
That's sort of game changing.
It is. It shocked us quite a bit. But then as we took time to think it through and understand it and really look at it, it makes sense. And it also makes sense if you look at this data and how it lines up to people talking about the death of the billboard effect. That kind of lines up to this then, right? Like maybe the data they're seeing is because of the amount of site traffic that is going to make a decision has gone down. Well, is part of that have something to do with the billboard effect? So it's still not enough to like really draw like, hey, I have to do this. But it is something interesting to know. And it really speaks to what should be on a hotel's website. I mean, we talk about that quite a bit of, your website shouldn't just be, a carbon copy of what used to be in a trifold. It actually has to have the things to, meet the emotional needs, to meet the needs of the different parts of the funnel. Because if you do that, you can contain a lot of the funnel to your site. You stand a better chance of getting the transaction.
Yep, very true. Holly, how much time do we have with you today?
Well, really, I should go in 7 minutes.
Okay. Real quickly, a couple of fun things I'd love to see your face on. One, remember that app that you said, hey, do you see this? I ended up buying it. So if you didn't buy it, you want to play with it, I'll give you the user password for it.
What app?
Because it's kind of fun. The one that makes all the social ads real quickly, kind of like a Spark variant. Because the social effects, whatever it is.
Yeah, you bought that.
Yeah, so I'll give you the access to it. Sorry, folks that are watching the show, you don't get it. But Holly does because she turned me onto it. So I'm playing with it and I'm going to give her access to it. But there's something very interesting that is just fun news and scary at the same time. So Pinterest is rolling out a new Pinterest lens. Now, Pinterest is kind of falling behind. If you want to look at statistics of numbers and engagements, Pinterest is beginning to fall behind. Their apex has been kind of at its current level and not much beyond. Their engagement, you know, as Ed has pointed out, the reason why they're getting so many more males to it or so many older people to it is because that's the only growth pattern they have for it at this particular moment, the female part of it. But weddings, as we talked about in the previous show, or 2 shows back now at this point, is astronomical that 81% of weddings are chosen and been cultivated on Pinterest even before the person gets asked to be married. This is what the Knot and a wedding planner always wanted to be, was the de facto source of wedding planning, and Pinterest came in and stole the whole thing, and they're the place that people dream in now about weddings and what they're going to do for weddings.
Pinterest has dropped the ball on a development cycle. I mean, they've not been able to figure out how to take you from dreaming deeper
to buying.
Down. Right.
This is where this comes in a little bit. I'm not saying this is the silver bullet to them. I just think this is an exceptionally crazy cool thing. It's called Pinterest Lens. Now, I see this from a different angle, which I'll get to. But what you can do with Pinterest Lens is you can aim your camera at anything, and it'll start identifying the object and then giving you related pins to it. So if you point it at strawberries,
so it's similar to Amazon's visual.
Like,
first of all,
and Google's.
If you've never used it, Amazon was one of the earliest players in this, and I use it all the time. I know that sounds crazy, but if you go to the Amazon,
I try to do it in the retail too.
If you go to the Amazon app and you actually click their camera icon, it actually starts to discover what it's looking at, and then looks for bringing up what it is.
Yep.
And so the reason
you look like you didn't know that, Holly. You look like you didn't know that.
It's amazing.
It's a shopper's nightmare because you will never stop shopping. Because as you see things, so say for instance, you saw.
So I just pointed it at my cup.
And there it is. So get this: if you're wearing something that somebody likes, you can aim it at them.
It was a stainless steel cup. That's all it noticed.
Yep. So if you see a friend that's wearing an item of clothing that you would like, you can aim it at it. It can identify it and then start showing you either the actual item itself or items similar to it or things that wear with it.
Yep.
Well, Pinterest is doing this now. So you can aim at things like, say, for instance, strawberries in your refrigerator, and it'll start saying, well, this is strawberries, and it might show you, strawberry. Then it starts showing you strawberry recipes and then things that can go with strawberries.
Yep.
And then, of course, like with Amazon's angle, places to buy strawberries.
And by the way, it's an early form of AR.
Yes.
Just FYI. So if you're amazed and you think this is an amazing thing that really makes the internet more usable, this is what I've been talking about. This is AR. This is bridging the gap of the digital world and the world around us in a way that actually drives value.
Now, this is okay. Holly, you want to say something?
Lauren.
Yep.
Go ahead, Holly.
No, go ahead.
So let me tell you how I use it.
I want to do this while you're still on the show because I love the wonderment when you see something like this. You're going, what?
So here's how I use it. So when I'm at a store and I'm looking and trying to decide if I want to buy something, I'll quickly do a look at it on my Amazon app to see if the price is any good and to see if the description's good and understand. Because it also, with Amazon, then you can go and look at like the owner's manual and read what people have said about it. So you're talking about from a shopper's journey. I mean, brilliant on Amazon because there's probably 1 in 5 times that I pull the thing out, I end up ordering it on Amazon.
And if you want to, you make a private board of yourself of your own clothes. And if you see another piece of clothing, it will actually compare that piece of clothing to what you have as clothing on your board and tell you what goes with it.
Yep. So that's actually a brilliant move for Pinterest.
Yes. Now, here's my okay, Holly, go ahead. You got this look.
Go ahead.
You got the look.
I was going to make fun of Ed and you actually, Lauren, because how many blue shirts can you buy?
Hey,
blue and gray. Look, I'm wearing gray today. I've changed. I've worn the other shirt until I think it walked on itself to the washer. It walked on itself. It went just to the washer. Said, I'm done. I'm going in the washer.
I save my mental bandwidth for better pursuits.
Anyway, so this is my take on it from Pinterest, and I do appreciate all of this development for one primary reason. For those who have special needs visually, this is a potential game changer. Mm-hmm. Because now they can see the world around them better.
Yep.
They can aim it at things, and they can tell what they're looking at. and they can make choices and things now. And I always equated this, and this goes back to somebody that was when I first was trying to get into the special needs travelers. It's a segment of saying, how can I address solutions for these people? And I was talking to a person that had visual impairment. They said, just try to close your eyes and give me a $10 bill. And I could not for the life of me know what the $10 bill felt like. Because you really realize how much limitations there are on certain disabilities, like visually being able to handle currency is one of them.
Holly,
and that just had a profound effect on me.
Your Amazon app?
Yeah.
So when you look at the search bar, right next to the search bar, there's a camera icon. So click on it and point it at the lamp behind you.
I'm clicking it at a water bottle.
Oh, water bottle. So anyway, this now allows them to shop differently. Not that Amazon couldn't, but it also allows them to shop groceries differently. It allows
really
them to see the world differently.
It helps them bridge the buyer's journey. So now it's great news that Pinterest is doing this. It will make them far more relevant further down the funnel of the journey. That's really good to hear that they're doing that. And by the way, like, this is augmented reality. Like, I agree with this you. Is the fundamental. What I was about.
How come?
Why is this augmented reality?
Yeah,
because it's using. So again, you don't think just AR is like changing what you see. It's also helping you understand better what you see. So when I do this and I look at this poster, if you, rather than having to go to Google and search it in and then figure out where to find what you wanted to find on it, now here's all the things that you can buy. Look at what it says, movie poster. It didn't take me to just the movie. It understood what it was. So imagine the impact of being able to walk throughout your day and just be curious about something and instantly have access to knowledge. This is the problem the internet has, is there's just so much knowledge. It's unconsumable. And AR is what will make the internet really change our lives. And so what you're seeing with Pinterest, what you're seeing with the Amazon, Best Buy's played with it. This is the interface that bridges digital with, the physical world. And so AR, and this is why I'm like, VR is gaming, and it's unplugged. It's like specific micro moments is VR, but AR represents the ability of being present in our everyday life.
Yep. And if you think this, go to a museum now with this, because most of the curated things that are in museums are sellable either via souvenir or but also what comes up with it is the Wikipedia content and all the other stuff with it too. So you now have a whole different visualization in a museum because you don't need the audio guide with it. I mean, I thought I was being coy in Australia where we were doing an artist trip through a city in Melbourne, that when you hold up, you got the AR, you had the artist stand beside some graffiti that they were describing that they inspired its creation or something of. And I thought that was cheeky and like, oh, that's pretty cool that you can have the guy speaking about it. That's nothing compared now that in museums, you can have the curator stand beside a piece or an artist stand beside the piece and describe what you're looking at, right? And then you can look and buy whatever it is you want to buy about it. I mean, that's the engagement.
And so think about the impact on humanity of that, 80 years from now, because now that means they're going to start recording artists talking about their work. So 80 years from now, people will be able to learn from the artist. How amazing would it be to be able to hear from Mozart what he was feeling right at the time, and just be able to access that in context? Because that's what AR is going to represent, is being able to access data in context, which is just going to enrich humanity. Because all of humanity, you can look, the leaps and the people who've always been the catalyst to the leaping have been the ones who have found ways to give wider access to knowledge.
So
that's what I want to through before you left.
So of course, I think we should do this for a dating app, so that you can take a picture of somebody that you like, and then all the people that he's married, and so you can't have him, and so it shows you all of the other men in the area that look like him.
But that's the thing. But see, you're thinking the right way. I mean, it's access to knowledge, and so there's so much. There's so much knowledge out there. There's so many things out there that it's hard to pull it in when you want it. Okay. And when you're in the moment. So when we're talking about in the moment, the only thing that is going to address that that's on the horizon technologically is AR.
Yeah.
I guess you're looking at was it the Netflix show Dark Sky or Dark Mirror or something? But Holly, you're going to want those contact lenses you put in that when you look into a room, it'd be like the Terminator, little things, available, not available, asshole. No.
I would love that. And then I want a review site as well. So I dated him. He was cheap.
There is a review site that you can.
There is a review site.
Yeah, there is.
You know that, and I didn't.
I met my wife online.
Of course you did.
So,
did you really?
Yeah. Yep.
That's
Hysterical. Back before it was mainstream. It was actually funny. We were at an event last night where one of her friends came up who met her boyfriend online just recently, and it's going really well. And she's like, it's funny. I think back to when you and Ed met, and you told me that you met him online. She's like, I thought it was kind of creepy, but now it's how everyone meets. Yeah. So I'm an early adopter at everything.
You are. I have to leave, but I have to say one final thing. The whole time I saw you in person in New York, it was driving me crazy because you looked different, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I said that to him, and I today realized what it was. You wear the headset, and it smashes your hair. Sorry.
Well, that's a great fleeting moment before you go in.
That's so funny. Plus, I was dressed nice. I mean, the other thing was I was dressed nice and I had shaved. So that'll also make a difference.
It's absolutely true. I literally talked to Robert Cole. I'm like, Robert, what's different about Ed? And Robert's like, nothing.
I'm so much better in person.
I'm so much better in person. Holly, are you making it? Are you making it to Rock this year? Are you making it up to Rock?
I don't know.
Well,
I hope you do.
You may have to now if This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing is going to be there, because if there's anywhere we need a fact checker, it's
yeah. In fact, we called your name out a couple of times because we're there talking, and we're like, this would not be happening if Holly was here. She would have made sure this shit was right, because there was sometimes we were just wrong. We're like, that's not right. Where's Holly?
Absolutely everything we were talking about was completely off base and wrong. And we were like, man, if Holly was here, we'd be able to know that we were actually driving.
We know that right off the bat. So you got to go. And here's the thing: with Ed being generous about having a crew come up and do the production, or having someone do the production, it would be a blast if all of us could be together doing these interview processes with everybody. Because honestly, there was a line, and it was not because we were out dragging people. I mean, people started seeing and doing. They saw the caliber of what was being done with who we were talking to, and they're like, "Yeah, well, I'll do that now." Yeah, it's not some hokey thing. It's really, this is pretty cool. You're getting some crazy insights from people. So
Rock and High Tech, I have a lot of history with, so we'll be able to pull a lot more people because I've been doing high tech for almost 20 years, and Rock for 10, 15 years, and it's you talk about Old Home Day, like that's my show, so we'll be able to pull a lot more. Yeah, those are my people.
Those are my people.
Those are my peeps.
That's my tribe.
Yeah. So you should come with us.
I might.
If we do this,
that makes it appealing.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm glad we're able to do it.
I'm going to go so I can go home. I'm going to the airport.
Thank you. Thank you for joining and allowing this to not be a weird show, because Lauren and Ed shows just get weird.
They're weird.
I know. I've seen them. Goodbye.
Bye. Safe travels.
Bye, Holly. Thank you. She does know us well.
It's neat that she didn't know about the Amazon function.
Yeah, that was. I love when we get the chance to show Holly some new toy, because honestly, you're talking about the purity. She's so much is fascinated, and she enjoys what this really means. She sees it for the value that it is. Like, look how cool this can be used, and look how good this can be done with. And so you get this light up face of like, that is so cool. I mean, that's worth 1,000 times of showing it to somebody, to having one person light up with that and go, that's neat. That's why you like finding these things. So, but yeah, to the point. I mean, things like that, Pinterest, things like Amazon, that engagement, that bridge that you're talking about from digital. That is the defining difference. And yes, how many people wouldn't love to go over and talk to Mozart about what inspired him on some of his production?
Right. I
music?
mean, this is my point, and this is and I don't think enough people when they're thinking through AR and VR, they're thinking through what they can see that's being presented. But if you take the time to think through the problems that they solve, it's easy to see why AR is far more compelling of a technology to the human race than VR.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you and I have always been in agreement with that.
Yeah.
VR is fun and interesting. And it was kind of, I got to say... And
entertainment. I think VR has just massive impacts for entertainment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I got to be honest with you, AR is about access to knowledge. And knowledge is what moves our, the humankind forward. I mean, you've seen it. That's why we're accelerating so much as the computer age is hit and is taking hold. It's not because we're faster, it's because we have more access to knowledge, and you can learn anything you want to learn, with the touch of a keyboard. Well, think about the impact of not even having to go through that step. Just having, access to knowledge readily available. I mean, I talk a lot about windshield. I think windshield's going to be one of the obvious early places of AR.
Oh, yeah.
Think about when you cross state lines. If all of a sudden your windshield can talk to you about some of the common differences or some of the big differences in traffic law. Like, hey, this state has a 0 speed tolerance.
Take the radar detector down or turn it off, or we've turned it off for you because this state doesn't allow radar detectors.
Right. And so when you're talking about things that just will change our lives, it's AR. I want everyone obsessed with AR because I want AR now, because AR will change our lives for the better.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. There was a cute little things you should know kind of thing that popped up. There's a couple of states that don't allow radar detectors. Technically, all vehicles that now have the brake assist are in violation of their state laws.
That's correct, because their state laws,
the technology.
The loophole the state laws use that outlaw radar detectors is actually it's because of the transmission, not because of the purpose.
Right.
So yes, you're right. Cars with navigations or with any type of autonomous lane assist, all of that. Yep.
Yeah, there's just kind of a running part to it all, but yeah, because that just goes to show you how laws don't catch up to certain things because it's just the progress of things. But out of the grab bag of everything else that I threw out there, I mean, the only article I drag is the Skift article. But as I mentioned to people before, Skift has its purpose in life. It has its aggressiveness on headlines. I find the headlines more provocative and thought engaging. It's the context sometimes of the article that I find to be lacking compared to the headline. The headline about the revolution of
Here's what Skift is. Skift is a mile wide and an inch deep.
Yeah.
And
yes.
Listen, it's good.
It's
good. It's good for people to be able to do that. But I just encourage you that anything you read on Skift, before you act, you look for
supplemental articles,
more information, because they are fast and loose with what they call research or what they call fact. And part of that, I think, is probably because they're trying to be fast. And, that's great. But first of all, you should feel this way about any news. Before you act on any news, corroberate it.
Right. Well,
right.
Look, take more than just one person to it, and I actually reposted something on taking an extra moment to confirm what you think is before you share. Compare. I think is the statement out of the look at what you're looking at, and then look beyond it and see where other places are. Who's sharing it? Who's validating it? Where is it coming from URL to quote? Is it real? Is it not? Take the image, go do an image Google search on it, see if it's not being reused from something else. Simple, little, just a couple of words. Because what people forget is that when you share it, one, bing, goes permanent.
You're attaching your name to it.
You're putting your name to it. And when you put your name to it, do you really want to be the asshole that goes over and send out fake bullshit just because you thought it was cute and didn't take the time? Bad thing to do. So take the time. If you're going to be a respected authority, going back to the old social circle things, you have authoritative people. If you knew I was a tech geek and you're going to buy a TV, you're going to come and ask me, hey, Lauren, do you know anything about TVs? I'm thinking about buying one. and you being something of a professional in something else, I come to you and say, hey, you're that person that knows most about this. What's your recommendation? Are you going to dilute that value because you just were too quick to point out, hey, look at this cool thing. Oh, crap, it sucked. It wasn't right. And to that end,
that's why one of my favorite things to do to people is post the Snopes article to whatever their post is. And I don't say anything. I just put the URL to that specific story on Snopes.
By the way, I have to go over and say I almost succumbed to Ed's office rule of open computers the other day. When we're at the conference, I forgot that my watch automatically unlocks my laptop. And in one of the interviews, Ed dropped in the chair that I was sitting in. My laptop was in front of it, and it opened up because my watch was nearby. And he's like, "Oh," and I'm like, "No!"
And her Facebook was up and logged in.
My Facebook was up. I was like, I have dodged the bullet. I was
actually
out of the
only reason you dodged a bullet is I said something.
That's true.
I could have just
honestly, I forgot my watch unlocked my phone because it was locked down, but because my watch was in proximity, it kicked it open again automatically. And
now you'll think about that at airports as you're walking up somewhere and you put your bag down. You'll
I got
the back of your head.
Yeah,
social engineering. That's the way most hacks happen. Yeah. So there you go. You are now more secure because of that.
That's right.
And I did it in a fun way instead of the Debbie Downer way of like.
That's true.
Hey, Lord,
it's everything upside down and backwards on my screen. And why isn't the Facebook said that I like that stuff? Anyway, the eHotelier article, and I put this in not as a tongue in cheek, but as a conversation because it was going to be you and me today. The one, what a property needs on its website. Now, normally this is not even something I throw in the show, except for it's just a thought-provoking thing because half of it's bullshit. And I'm not saying against eHotelier, and this is just basic stuff. Okay, it's kind of regurgitated evergreen content. Oh, the 5 steps to success, or the 3 things you should never not do, or stupid things like that.
Well, hold on. To be fair, again, like let's look at why this content existed. Okay, so Alex from Cloudbeds wanted to put out content that would get picked up. Brilliant content strategy, but this is where you should be very cautious as a content marketer. Mm-hmm. Content strategy shouldn't just be about getting picked up. It should be about adding real value. So if I were to go through this article, if one of my content people came to me and said, okay, I'm going to put out this, this document because I want to pick up some leads and, I want to talk about something around our periphery, like they're doing content marketing 101, but the problem is content marketing 101 doesn't talk about what content can do to your reputation as a company. And so when I look at this and I look at, okay, what was valuable here? First of all, an integrated booking engine. Yes, that should be in there. A simple navigation. I would have gone into more depth on this and, to add value, make it visual. Again, good content to have there, mobile friendly. I would actually say mobile first would have been better to put here. Accurate information I would have left out because that should be at this point in all forms of marketing, should be there. And then have a blog. Well, I agree that sites with blogs are more interesting. I would actually not recommend that most hotels have blogs because as well as I do that most hotels will not keep their blog up with quality content.
Right.
And a blog
is really spaghetti on the wall.
Well, and the problem is a blog that whenever I go to a site that has a blog, I always click on the blog and I can instantly tell how serious this company is about marketing, because if it's like I click on it and the most recent blog post is from a day or two ago, I'm like, great, this is actually I'll read into the blog then. But if I look at it and the last blog post is from a month or more ago, in some cases it's years, you're better off not having a blog. So have a blog if you are going to take having a blog seriously. City guides, again, it's great that they say this, but again, I'll warn you, don't do a city guide unless you're going to do it from a fresh perspective, which you should. So I was talking to, I forget who I was talking to this week, but we were talking about local. I think it was in my interview with Jay, possibly, where we were talking about local, and I made the point that the largest, the industry that actually employs the most locals are hotels, the hotel industry.
Yeah, he was with Jay.
Yeah.
It was with Jay, yes.
So
Yep.
I would encourage a city guide if it was written through the lens of what your employees do, because that's actually interesting and different. And then a frequently asked questions page. Yeah, only if you're going to do it right. So
yeah, you'd have to segment it to be correct. I mean, just having a general shotgun FAQ, even if you have a good search bar, not everybody knows how to ask the right question. Sometimes they need to be inspired as to what content would be most helpful for them. So if you categorize it a little bit more succinctly and then itemize the
other
FAQ
thing I'll say to you is if you have frequently asked questions, address it in the site, meaning fix your site. Because if your site's doing what it should be doing, there shouldn't be frequently asked questions. You should only be dealing with the people who happen to have. So, listen, this is actually a good example of if you're doing a masterclass in content marketing strategy. Don't forget the last bit, which is the content should be valuable and not valuable from an SEO perspective, which, by the way, this document is like super valuable from an SEO perspective. This should be valuable where it actually takes the readership and teaches them something they didn't know. And the only thing I'll say is of the stuff that I think it would teach people that they didn't know, they're actually not putting the information in correctly, which are all those items I said, there should be a better caveat than what's in the content.
Right.
So listen, good on Cloudbeds is a good start to their content marketing strategy. This is the type of content they should be making. And they're seeing the early success of doing that. eHotelier picked it up. But now, Alex, if you watch this, be a little bit more serious on making sure that the advice and information you're giving is more solid, and you'll actually win relationships without ever talking.
Oh, this could be amped. Yeah. I think this whole article could be amped better, because if he just gave some more specific things and refined a little bit more of the generalized statements, I think that people would walk away with it going, hey, that was worth my time. And yes, that's worth my time following this person, which is the real true content value of this. Is like, yes, I want to create an engagement of dialogue with this person where I'm going to follow what else they say because I like what he said already. This is just one of those kind of, I don't want to say white noise because it seems more derogative than it should be, but just generalized. You start getting into it, you realize that.
But here's the thing: it's a slight miss. Like, I don't want to be too hard on it because it's not a huge miss; it's a slight miss. And listen, we all live in glass houses.
Oh yeah. Especially anybody who wants to see anything, just look at my website, man. Last house painted from the painter's house, because it is bad. Right. And even after cleaning it up, it's still bad.
So take when we pick these things apart with a grain of salt.
We're listening to our own selves on this one. This isn't like, well, we're perfect and we're not going to point at it. No. This is, I've written some plenty of good things I thought were just the greatest things since sliced bread. And I read it the next day, I'm going, yeah, what was that? That was nothing.
Actually, I'll give you a perfect example of that. One of my favorite things to do to my marketing people is point out their grammar and spelling issues.
My wife says
do you know why it drives them nuts? Because I am the most lax person on like capitalization and punctuation in emails. Because you've seen how I respond to anything. It's one line. It's one line. It's nothing but exactly what I'm trying to get across to you. And so my marketing people see this all the time, and they're like, oh God, Ed's the worst writer. And so then I see anything they work on for me, and I'll be like, oh, my only edits are spelling and grammar related. I thought and I always see it. They're always like,
my wife, who's Dutch, English is not her primary language, saves my ass so many times if I get there, and there right, I feel like I won the lottery. I, for the life of me, have a mental dysfunction on the terminology of there. I don't know whether it's EAR, ERE, IER.
Well, ERE is easy. Just take off the T. It's here, right? So it's when go over there is here.
Here, a location.
Right, a location.
There is possessive.
Possessive,
yeah.
And then
I try.
Apostrophe RE is they are.
I like to think of myself as brilliant in certain things, which I still haven't discovered yet, and pretty much the rest is crap. But yeah, Renee, my wife, just to see
any document she picks up finds the spelling issues, and on every commercial. Like it's crazy.
It's amazing. Yeah. I'm always in awe of how she can find stuff. And I over comma and I write the way I talk, which is never ending, one long stream of sentence.
No, I know. I get your emails.
Yeah. So you can ask a simple question and I will send you back a war and peace of thoughts, counter thoughts, sources of thoughts, thoughts about thoughts.
And then I sent back a thanks.
No, thanks. Yes. Okay. I'm like, come on, man, give me some more than that. Anyway, and by the way, just play red carpet on this for just a moment. You know, Dave Spector, how well dressed can you get? That man is. I mean, he showed up at the conference looking good. He's got that kind of calm walk around conversation kind of. There's certain personalities that just stand out in certain groups. Dave's one of those guys that just walks around. He's got the boots going with the. And then he goes Johnny Cash on us in the evening, all black or something like that. And I'm like, dude, what is this fashion thing? He said, oh, my wife dresses me. I was like, well, tell your wife she's picking some damn good clothes because you know what? You're looking good, man.
Hey, I actually felt really good as someone who is like that in our industry actually complimented my suit. I was like, wow. Thanks.
Damn. Well, I went off for the Mr. Rogers
But
sweater.
of course, because I'm not used to hearing stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, it is a nice suit. And instantly was like,
oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Probably should have said thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. You might have gone
unfiltered connection between the brand
and as a shout out to the hotel that we stayed at. Thank you for your connection with the Row. First time I had stayed there. I've known of the Row, but I've never stayed there before. Had a great room in the corner, so I got angle down 8th and a angle down south as well. So
here's the thing. I mean, Highgate just runs cool properties. They just have great properties in New York. I pick the Row because of its, it's so close to the Marriott Marquis, and actually the walk is nice because you walk by a couple of playhouses. And so the first night, so the night of the Adrians, I was walking back and the play had just let out. So all the stars of the play were out there meeting the fans and everything. And just a nice little walk. I really like the Row, and you can't beat the price.
No. And it goes a couple of things that were in the news. One is there's over 30,000 rooms coming to market right now in the New York market. I didn't throw that into the newsfeed stuff, but there's over 30,000 more inventory coming into the New York space in the next 12 months, which is the largest growth market right now. The other article that I didn't throw in.
See it. But here's the thing, you can see it. Look at their ADR and look at their occupancy. Yeah. It's been frozen. Well, all other markets are like New York,
except for Miami, which was the other market that they referred to in a different article.
It's an overbuilt market. So
overbuilt market, and they are suffering right now.
A good friend of mine is a pretty big real estate developer, and he was actually looking. We were talking about it last year, and he was looking for a facility to short the Miami real estate market. He actually wanted to figure out a way that he could short the market because he was seeing it. It's just so grossly overbuilt. And so if you go to Miami, if you haven't been to Miami lately, there's skyscrapers popping up everywhere. And they're all,
downtown it was 5 years ago. It's a different
all just so overpriced. And so that's actually affecting the hotel space because you now have, and they're all residential. There's not a lot of, it's all residential. And so that's affecting the hotel market because these unsold condos or these, a lot of them are being bought as like second homes. They're being put on the market for rent, or they're letting friends and family stay at it. These are people who would normally stay in hotels. So it's another just way overbuilt market. And Miami's honestly going to be overbuilt probably for the next 15 to 20 years because the amount that still hasn't come online yet. The next 5 years, the amount of inventory coming online in Miami that's not travel related, just residential inventory. I don't know what people are thinking.
And it's not just the Miami; it's on the other coast as well. Naples is overbuilt and it's overpriced, and it's placing a lot of the lowers out. But again, to the Miami market, because I have clients that are down there, is that South Beach is offering $100 room nights. I mean, and that's the quintessential what people perceive going down their market imagery. So the first choice when it comes to people coming into market, especially international, and that's at $100 a night. And then you're somewhere else other than that, and you're trying to meet.
Well, one of the other things that's really killing South Beach is the U.S. dollar is so strong right now.
Yep. And Zika doesn't help it. And Cuban markets begin to open up, at least with the cruise side of things. There's still not enough inventory to make
if you remember, I was saying one of the big impacts I thought to Cuba opening up is it's going to hurt the Caribbean, but I also think it's gonna really hurt Dubai.
Yeah,
I think it's really going to hurt Dubai because, before this little disagreement we've had with Cuba, it was the #1 tourist destination in North America.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of interesting things about it now. It's a time capsule.
It is a time capsule, and
for the next few years.
And it's beyond the Havana market now too. I mean, there's 5 other ports of entry for the cruise boats, and the cruise boats answer the real problem, which is infrastructure wise, Cuba can't support the tourist interest.
Right.
But pull into a cruise boat, it's its own self city. So yeah, as long as I got a place to anchor and get on and off by boat or something like that, or even dock, then I'm good. And the Cuban government probably has no problems digging up a trench through coral just to make sure a big boat comes in, because it's going to be a lot of nice money.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
They're back in the older ways, I guess.
It's really interesting. It's interesting to watch, and it's like a perfect storm for South Florida right now. Between the strong dollar, Cuba opening up, Zika, overbuilding on the residential side, like South Florida is just tough. It's a tough market. It's going to be a tough market for the foreseeable future. And
then let's just start throwing in the whole political situation as well as to travel in general, with international travel and the skepticism.
Now you have restricted airspace.
Yeah, now you got a whole mess of fun things that are making a mess of it as well.
Jets scrambled, and it's I feel for my friends that market because it's going to be a tough couple of decades for South Florida.
Now, one nice thing too, one of my old haunts, OPL that I was with, has decided to change their Westin in Key West, which is literally quintessentially the landmark of Margaritaville, and turn it into a Margaritaville.
I love that product.
Yeah,
I love the Margaritaville product. Have you seen what they're building in Orlando?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I know where they're building. I've seen the images of it. It's just crazy good. And I mean, I know more about the Hollywood project for lots of things, but the fact that they're going to make a Margaritaville in Key West at the location that the Westin is at the tip, plus there's the private island, the Sunset Key off to it as well. You can't get a more postcard relationship between brand and product as you can between those two things. Yep. So very smart move.
Who would have thought building a Margaritaville in Margaritaville would be a good idea?
Go figure. Well, astronomical cost is down there, but the Walshes who own OPL, great move on their part for that. The other was I saw, and I didn't get to throw it into the news pieces, that Morgan is buying Felcor, or at least bid to buy Felcor. I don't know how that's going to work out. It seemed like an odd blend. I don't know. I was going to throw that just in front of you to see if you had thoughts. I figured we'd bring it up in next week's show as well.
I want to read about that a little bit before I speak on it.
Because it seems like a interesting play.
And then to end with the most non-news item will be Dan Waxman's lack of beard.
Back to the red carpet, because he can rock the beard, all right, but he can also rock the no beard, and people didn't recognize him. I mean, it was weird because it's like you look at the two, and it's like if anybody wanted to go into what's that new reality show? I hate reality shows, but the new one about the run and hide or something, he could so pull that off because he is two completely different people. Beard, no beard, not the same person. Not the same person. Does not look like the same person. So
I mean, it was just really funny to go from Friday on the show where he gave us a heads up that he was not going to be all Portland in New York. I mean, different guy.
And speaking of another, like Jay, another just good person.
Yeah.
In the industry, just good, genuine, honest to goodness, wants to do the right thing, wants his company to do the right thing, wants to provide the spirit of the service from hospitality. Just one of those guys too that you smile when you meet him. You just smile because he's just one of those nice guys to the process. A lot of people on the show were like that. I mean, you see the same faces, you see the same people. Some people do show games.
One of the reasons this industry is great is there's more of those people than not.
Yes. Yeah, very true to that. And although I missed the content firsthand, I did get a sense that people were, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I get this from not just what you were doing with interviews.
Lauren, all right. You're wrong.
Wait till I say it first.
Oh, sorry. Reaction.
Then tell them I'm wrong. Then tell them wrong. That is actually at the end of it. All right, so the idea is that people are slowing down and not just trying to race to keep up or be in the front. They're slowing down to realize the technology that's available, the need to realize the technology that's available and to use it, the reality of having to better get your house in order because of the potential of whatever storms may be rising, compared to it's still going to be sunny tomorrow, so not worry about it mentality.
Driver, what you just said, the whole, hey, top line growth is probably not happening a whole lot in a whole lot of the markets this year. I think that's what's driving this change right now, because I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's if you correlate it to, you know, how all of a sudden everyone more like, because the people who are always innovative, they're always innovative, right? I mean, and you can name those people. We see them at the shows. They're always the ones thinking things through. They're the ones who ask the hard questions. Like, there's that level of person. There's a lot of them in this industry. But when you start hearing the masses opening up to that way of thinking, you can directly correlate it to the fact that for the past year and a half, they've been saying, expect a slowdown. And it started. So I think everyone is shifting from, oh, hey, I got to do more than just grow the top line this year, because I may not be able to grow that. So I need to grow the bottom line.
Right. And yeah.
So,
and I think that's probably where some of the channel costs and so forth, to Cindy Estes Green's credit, who's been vanguarding that conversation for a while, is beginning to resonate with more people. They're realizing they're being led by 1,000 cuts on some things that they weren't paying attention to. And then also looking at their data in a different way than not King. RevPAR is an outdated modality based on old metrics and old content, because that's the only content you could have at the time. And there's much more relevant content of data, not content, I say that. Data.
I gotta be honest with you. I've always preferred timeshare's approach to it, which is VPG. I think it's a more holistic metric, which is value per guest.
Yep.
And it's a bigger picture of the total spend that a guest has.
Yeah. And we now have the data capabilities to begin to identify the actual value per guest, which we didn't have before. We were just looking at it from
you had the data before. You had to look across systems. Like, now it's easier to bridge that data together. I mean, listen, I still look at it as the outsider. I've never worked in a hotel. Okay. I've always served the industry, but I have also been a business owner my entire adult life. And this business, the last business, were always smaller than the actual business that most of our hotels were. You know, when you talk about the revenue per year that a hotel puts in. And I've always been dumbfounded. I've always been dumbfounded by the lack of taking certain aspects of that business seriously. Because in my businesses, I've always looked at it as there are certain things that are unforgivable being sloppy at.
It's funny you just said that. I know we're kind of wrapping to a point and stuff, but I had the same not indignant but skeptic look when I first got into hotels, because I come from restaurants, and I got into hotels through restaurants, and I thought it was absolutely mind-blowing how inefficient hotels were in their food and beverage businesses. Coming from a restaurant that I had to staff if I was always going to be full, buy as if I needed every piece of food, but then not buy when I didn't need it, not staff when I didn't need it, cut people when I didn't need it, and know how to clean my own toilet and do my own cooking shift because my cook didn't show up, or do dishes or play host or 1,000 other things, because that's how you ran business. That's how you did your business. And so you had to be good, not the best, but you had to be good at everything, so you needed to get done what needed to get done. Then I get into hotels, and restaurants have engineers that fix things, and housekeepers that clean things, and people that order things, and a building above you with hundreds of customers just an elevator away. And yet the restaurant had the audacity to bitch about the fact of, well, we're just not doing good business. I don't know what it is. We didn't get that capture from this. And so I'm like, for God's sakes, go down to the air chiller and wave some bacon into the air vents, and you're going to increase your breakfast business. Think like an entrepreneur. Think about, if I don't do this, I don't make payroll, which means I fail. I got cash flow issues. Somebody doesn't pay my check. That was the other thing that got me, is like, restaurants, they could be miserable operators and the hotel would still pay their bills. And I'm sitting there going, I didn't have that luxury. If I couldn't make revenue, I didn't pay my bills. I ran out of business, you know? Right. And I think for the first time I'm hearing from your perspective, it's like, you look at it the same way. It's like, look, dudes, I'm at ground level.
Know what you're good at and know what you're not good at. Work on what you're not good at. Find a solution to either not do it or do it better. Like, I just don't understand. And again, with the caveat of, there's a lot I don't understand, meaning I've never run one. I've never worked in one. So this is the outsider's view. But I mean, I look at a hotel that is a 15, 20, 30, $40 million a year business. So in some cases, just depending on the hotel and the market, in some cases much bigger. And I compare that to other companies of that revenue size. And sometimes I'm dumbfounded by, just certain aspects of it. like just completely dumbfounded by it.
Well, you know what? I think probably you just said the key to your success to it out of the process, because I used to, when I would bring staff into the hotel, would love to hire people that weren't from the industry. And that's because they had the purity of the purpose. They saw it from the customer's eyes, that the guest eyes, that if you're in hotels long enough and a guest walks up to the front desk that's vacant, then the hotelier's first reaction is, oh, it's that shift change, or you know what, they're leaning down, they had low arrival rate, or all the math that's associated with what you know from the backside. And the person that didn't work in hotels just saw, we failed. We didn't have somebody at the front desk to offer service. And whatever the reason is immaterial. The purpose is you failed the guest. You didn't provide the service. And so to your end, not being in the business, but serving the business probably kept you from that perspective always, that you always saw it with the clarity of, that's nice, but that's not what the guest is needing, or that's not what the guest needs to get, or whatever it is. So you kept them online with a lot of stuff.
Well, and I also look at it like when I do venture into things that I don't know anything about, not just in conversations and videos like this, where I'm constantly talking about things I know nothing about. But like in business, I try to hire someone who is superior at whatever that is, right? And in many cases, and then in things where it's not economical to hire someone, I then challenge my team to become the best at it. Mm-hmm. Or don't do it, because there's also that, like, and I liken it the most. The thing that makes me scratch my head the most is this hatred for OTAs. And here's the thing: there's a lot of hotels that if they ever hired me as a consultant, based on their reality today, I'd tell them, based on the effort you put into your marketing and your website, that's actually where you're losing money. Mm-hmm. Because there are hotels that don't put the right spend, don't have the right people at the helm to actually have that be a worthwhile thing. I would actually say to those hotels, like, your business is wholesalers and that's it. Mm-hmm. And if you actually aligned your business and designed it correctly, it would be incredibly profitable. Mm-hmm. It's this bipolar approach.
Well, I think
that is what I think creates this hatred of you want direct business, but you're going at it the incorrect way. Like, if you're not going to do it well, then find someone who will do it well. I mean, I look at Easy Yield. When we were Easy Yield and I wanted a new website, I had all the talent that could architecturally put up a website, but I knew that we didn't possess the correct skill sets to make a good website. So I hired a company and made sure that company could do it well. And then I took the project seriously. When we brought in Salesforce, yes, Salesforce is something I could have installed myself. However, I knew that to maximize what I got out of Salesforce, I needed to hire companies that would make taking it live faster, make sure that we change our operations to match new reality. I brought in consultants to do it. Mm-hmm. And I look at that, and I look at most successful businesses. They either become experts in the things that they need to become experts into, or they hire experts. I just don't understand it happen enough at hotels. And then even like the brands, like, let's go on to the brands. The brands are in this battle with OTAs. Here's the thing: you want to beat OTAs, hire the same people they hire. Your communications team shouldn't be from within the industry. Your communications team should be people who have done massive consumer level communication processes. Because listen, I get that we all want to train and do good for the next guy, but if you're training them stuff that is not actually competitive, you're not doing yourself any favors. Hire people who are the best at the function that you're having them do, and you don't see it, and you see it in these communications, even from the brands. You look at Expedia's communications process, you look at TripAdvisor's communications process, and then you compare it to any brand, and there is a stark difference. And the reason why is, go look on LinkedIn and look at who's in the communications team for Expedia. They're all people who've done massive communications in some of the best brands outside of our industry. So they know what it takes to have every communication be valuable, drive.
Right. They understand the purpose of its use. But it's funny how the conversations keep going full circle with it, because I've just had that exact same conversation 3 days ago. Well, 4 days ago now. OTAs, I call it the Marsha syndrome. We're envious because Marsha gets all the attention. We should have done what OTAs did for us, and that was been the person that people came to do business with. Instead, somebody else was smarter than us and stayed smarter than us because we gave them the power to be smarter than us. And then now
look at who those someone else's were. Those were people from outside the industry.
And the other, to your point about websites and strategy, is literally the conversation I had, and I called it. I was talking about like Yoda: do or do not, don't try. If you're not going to succeed at doing it, don't try to do it because you're only going to fail. Because OTAs have it right. They have the process right. They have the entire spectrum of the, and I hate using the cliche customer journey because it's just been an overused term that came up 2 years ago. It's relevant in this topic, but I hate the topic, the title itself. But it's the process of what people do to engage and purchase with us. And OTAs do it better. They do it consistently with us. And there's a value relationship we should maintain with them. They're not going to go away, not in the context that they're currently in some iteration in the future, who's to say, but right now, they're not going away. And right now, they can be a very valued asset. And as we talked about in the middle of last year, when we first started talking about budgets, build your relationships with your OTAs. Build the conditions of your relationship. Define your relationships so that this year now that we're sitting in and the ride is going to get bumpy, we don't have to go back going, oh, frick, trademark what? Negotiated what? Last room what? Stupid stuff that you could have easily worked through so that the relationship was a positive one. So now whoever didn't do that, whoever didn't listen to the advice of those like us or anybody else is now you're going to ride the ride. You bought the ticket. You're going to ride the ride that you got. And yes, there's going to be a time coming this year that you're going to go over and say, I got to give them what? I don't want to give them that. Why did we do that? Because you didn't negotiate the relationship in a way that meant that you had some influence over that decision. So not to sound on a pulpit about that, but it really is. You got to lay the track for this, just like you're saying. Get the right people at the right time, the smartest people for the smartest time. That goes right into that same conversation. So yeah, I'm with you 100% on that one.
Yeah. So I mean, I know it's a bit of a rant, but it just constantly pops up in my day where I look at things and I'm like, listen, I don't know how to write a good email, but I have people on my team who can draft emails that would rival the best communications companies in the world. Why? Because I know I don't know how to write a good email.
That's why you brought them on board. Is because they can.
Right. So, like I look at, and again, have never worked in a hotel, so I don't know, maybe there's fiscal reasons that this exists, but I'm going to be honest with you, like, my businesses have always been smaller than most of my customers' businesses, and I've always made sure that the things my businesses do, they do to the best that can be possibly done within the financial constraints of that business, because I've never done funded businesses. I've never done any of that stuff. But block and tackle is like the biggest thing I'd love to see this industry start doing. Identify what you're good at, make sure you continue to get better at that. Identify what you're not good at, and then sit down and figure out a way to be good at it. And then if you just can't be good at it, find a way to not be doing it. Yeah. So like you said, if it's F&B and you just can't do F&B, great. That sounds like a perfect opportunity to lease some space. Yep.
That's somebody that knows what they're doing. The opportunity. Yeah. Right. Yep.
Right. Exactly.
And, that way. Yep. So it doesn't believe it.
And so that's when I do look at these things, like there's an email that came out from one of the big brands, and I looked at it. It's one of the worst emails I've ever seen. It literally is a single image, and it looks like someone typed the content on a typewriter, scanned it in to a computer, then printed it on a cheap printer and faxed it to someone who then scanned it back in and then made a single image in an email. And this is a major brand who's in a big battle with the OTAs.
That's a sad thing. That's a sad thing. The little things.
Even a novice. Well, and what's funny is I forwarded the email. I was on the phone with my business partner. I forwarded him the email. He's like, "Oh, I got that email too." He's like, "Can you believe how bad that email is?" I didn't even put a note on it. I just forwarded him the email, like with no discussion on why I was forwarding him the email.
Yep.
And I look at this, and this is rampant. Like, so this is where I say, and you hear me say it a lot with the shiny object syndrome, the big warning: do what you do well before you move on to something else.
Yes.
Hotels, you need to be, there's so many things you're not doing well that if you did well, it would make massive impacts to your business. I was in a conversation, it was with Dan last week when I was talking about, hotels obsessed with how many points of communication they have with a guest in the guest cycle. You realize that that's actually just wrong. You didn't identify why that's a problem. It is not number of, emails that you send a guest that causes people to disengage. It's the number of times that you're sending something that someone doesn't want. So if your content is good and valuable to the recipient, you can keep sending them emails all day, because as long as they like receiving emails, they will read them and they will do things with them. It has nothing to do with number, right? Yep. One bad email is so much worse than 40 good emails.
Yeah, and for those who may not be familiar with just some of the nuances, and I don't say it was an over dramatization by you saying that you scan, faxed, and rescan and refaxed, because
I'll forward you the email, and when you see it, you're gonna actually let me do it right now so you can actually confirm that I am not. But
these little nuances for people to understand are image size, resolution, pixel counts.
Well, first of all,
the technique for creating them.
Don't serve up text as an image in an email.
Yeah.
So what I'm actually talking about, it was all text.
Because, people go over and slap an image and the text is in the image, and then the image goes out as the email, not knowing that there are so many variants to how that's being received, on what platform it's being received, what filters it has to pass through. Your entire message can get lost simply because you were too silly, and I say that nicely.
Do not say this. Do not say this brand's name when I send you an email.
Because these are the little technicalities that you think you're doing right by duplicating what you see, but you don't see behind the curtain how it was created correctly. And so if you don't have the knowledge to do this correctly, don't just adopt it and think that you're doing the same thing as the person that did have the knowledge.
And care about your job. Because you know other people who didn't write this communication saw this communication before it went out.
Yeah.
So speak up and challenge each other.
Oh, we've had that conversation in shows before, where you get this compliance thing for preservation. This isn't the fight, but rather win the war mentality. So
but you're losing the war. That's the problem.
And that's the thing. That's the thing, is that people don't realize that the war is won by all these small fights. That if you don't stand up on these small fights, the war is lost. There's not one juxtaposition in the future that says this is the time to rally and be firm in our conviction on this. No, you lost ground all that time, and now when you do finally stand up, you're not standing on any ground. Just ask the Romans about the Goths. Whoops. Made a bad choice on who to clean the house with, because they ended up owning the house. So same mentality. If you don't stand up for these little things as they begin to come up, they turn into acceptance. And I think we referred to the monkeys and the bananas on the post on that one time, I think, where, it just turns into, that's how things have always been done. So that's how things continue to be done. And you have to challenge that modality every time. I think you made a great, one of the great interviews we also had was the young girl that got the scholarship.
Yes, she was great.
And you know what's so funny is she looked at me, to jump back onto the HSMAI Digital Marketing Conference thing for a second. I met her at Adrian's reception. Friend Brasso, with Executive Vice President of HSMAI, introduced me to her. And I said, we were talking about you. She looked at me dumbfounded. Says, well, whom you are. I said, we on the live show are very impressed with the caliber of the students that get into the scholarship program, that have the privilege of being requested to attend these events, because you are fearless. You want to meet and greet and talk and exchange and learn, because you are here on a mission. You realize you're in a room full of people that can influence your future life, and you're not going to miss a moment of it by reaching out to these people. And she's looking at me just like I said, you're going to see so many people and talk to so many people and reach out to so many people. And that is the core of why this is such an amazing experience for people, is if people took and adopted how you're approaching this, okay, the way you're going to do this, they would love coming to these conferences, because they would walk away fulfilled that they met people that were smarter, better, and they got enriched by it. And at the end, when she did the interview, that's why I asked her again about that. She's like, yeah, I did that, because it really is, at the end of that, you're like, you shot out of a cannon. You're like, I just met some incredible people that honestly, in the real world, you would never get past the third receptionist to get to. You would you wouldn't even be on the same floor within the same building to accidentally walk by them, and yet you're standing in front of them, talking to them and being introduced to them. So that's the real neat part of it. But she was a wonderful, and I was asking you no fun questions. You kept like, Lauren, that's not the very fair question. I'm like, I know it's not. I mean, come on, But I was asking you.
Listen, in person without a camera, great. Ask whatever question you want.
Yeah, no, but I put her on the hot. But
Poor thing. Had her on the hot seat on a live broadcast. I didn't want you to.
And she leaned into it though. She leaned into it.
She did well.
Yep.
She did well.
She did
Look at that email I sent you and tell me if I was over exaggerating on the text of that email.
Hold on.
And first, confirm that it's a major brand. And then second, confirm what I said about the text.
All right. And ooh, really? Seriously?
And look at, I mean, it was an important message too. Like, this isn't like from a hotel. This is from the brand. It's
this is a mass send
that was sent to a lot of people, and it was meant to communicate something that should have been a lot of thought should have been put into.
Okay.
And I don't want to give too much of it away.
No, but you know what's funny is Periscope. Like, who is it? Who is it? I can't, honestly, it would be embarrassment to say. I don't mean to be like, we're not.
Well, and I have friends who work in that brand, and
yeah, we're not trying to drag somebody through the mud on it, other than to say that unfortunately these things exist. And so,
but I would, if I was the CEO of that brand, I would fire everyone inside the company who saw that email before it was sent.
Yeah, no, that's an embarrassment. Even at a individual hotel level, that's an embarrassment. That's, you know what that is? That reminds me of a sales team member that took a faxed copy of an ad sheet and half skewed it on the copy machine and then sent it out as a whatever, even as an email, just a trashy ass, nasty.
But see that. And there are other brands present in the communication. If I was any of those brands, I would sever my relationship with this brand.
Yeah, that's a total wow.
It's one of the worst communications I've ever seen from a publicly traded consumer-facing brand. It's bad, right?
Yeah. Wow. I'm just staring at it. I'm just staring at it going,
I'm not exaggerating, am I?
No, you're not exaggerating. And for those, like I said, sorry, for those who are Paris, Civic Econ and so forth, it would be an embarrassment to share it because, you know, we don't try to call people out in that kind of way for it, but it is.
Well, we can discuss what's wrong with it. So if you're going to put text in an email,
even those things
today,
it's a sad, nasty thing. But anything else out of the topics that I threw on the hopper? I mean, I'm hoping.
No, I think we're good. We can end on the leaving the suspense of no one knowing. Now, if you receive this email, you probably know exactly what brand.
If you got this email, then you're definitely looking at going, that's just a trashy ass email. But yeah, one of the weird little things, Instagram now allows you to do 10 photos or videos as a swipeable carousel. You see Facebook's in them now. They're going head to head with a lot of the value.
Facebook, again, just proves that they understand user journey. And so everything they're doing with Instagram, like, this is going to hurt Snapchat and their IPO. And the timing of this is so perfect. Like, I guarantee you they've had these ideas ready sitting for Instagram for a while, but they've just been putting up so many wins against Snapchat. It's they just know what they're doing, and they're not. And Facebook's never been one to be trendy as far as like, oh, they do something new and cool that really has no value. I mean, I will say I'm a Facebook fanboy, and not as a use, but as a company who has just continued to not get distracted by shiny objects, to execute incredibly well first, and then everything else is second. And they understand what people need. And I know that sounds crazy, but there's a lot of times that they've been kind of beat up for not doing what people want. However, when you look at all of those times and you extrapolate out the years after that uproar, Facebook was right. Like, my gosh.
No, very true. Very true. I definitely... Facebook is.
If I was Google, Facebook would be my number one concern every day, because Facebook is quickly becoming much more of the internet. Yeah, and its engagement is turning into AOL's starting point seems to be Facebook's ending point at this point. I mean, remember when they used to revolve that AOL was the internet for some people? They stayed in the ecosystem the whole time. Yep.
Some recaps of some things for those who are wanting to see the interviews that we were referring to earlier in the show today. My apologies. The only way we're able to do it live successfully was to just select a platform. So I picked Facebook Live and used a camera that piped to it directly.
So they should become friends with you on Facebook.
Yes, so I should get more friends since I'm such a Facebook whore when it comes to friends. And I am.
You could also just look at Flip.to's news feed because we did.
Yes, Flip.to was very generous in sending them out. I did push most of them up to YouTube. Also, again, on my personal YouTube, Lauren Gray. They will be on Hospitality Digital Marketing soon, as soon as I move them over.
And eventually, within the next couple of weeks, they will be edited.
And sound so much better and look well.
And they will be high quality, and then we will release them. And you'll be able to find them lots of places. And there will be, and again, well shared for that. We're going to send them out to the people that participated in the interviews as well. Absolutely.
So they can share with their teams because, again, I think it was a great testament to those who were on the interviews that they represented their companies well, and that it was incredibly a great affirmation to those people that work for these people that who's steering the helm has a good vision, that they're seeing where they need to go. And it's I hope they use them that way because it really was great to hear from those people how well they see the future to them. Also for other content, these show notes and of course everything else, hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. Now this is our last broadcast on Hausa. Now we have 68 or I don't know how many people following